Anti-immigration, anti-Europe. As France paves the way to a political statement, Nick Stamenkovic is down the line to discuss the future of this hurting economy. Nick, in the first test of public opinion since the November 13 terrorist attacks, France's anti-immigration party of Marine Le Pen notched up its best result since it was founded in 1972. We've seen the beginnings of a similar stance around the bloc of late. So where does your confidence in the stability of the EU sit around now?
Well, clearly, if you look at the situation in France and indeed recent opinion polls in Germany as well, there has been a swing to the right. Mrs. Merkel's plans to increase immigration significantly clearly have not gone down well, not just in her own party, but in the populace as a whole. And that seems to have filtered through to France as well. So clearly, it's a very hot potato that politicians are dealing with at the moment, and there seems to be a populist response, particularly in France, in response to it. So we'll have to see, whether this is just a one-off or this is the start of a more sustained trend. So if the economic picture continues to deteriorate in France, then investors, individuals, might blame outsiders for some of the problems, providing more support for Le Pen. But at the moment, she seems to be riding high in the opinion polls, and that clearly causes problems for the current president.
France's unemployment climbed to a near 18-year high of 10.2% in the third quarter, while the French government expects the economy to expand by at least 1.1% this year and 1.5% in 2016. Economists say this is too slow a rate to create enough jobs to bring down the jobless rate. But what are your thoughts? How does France find a way out of this debacle?
Yeah, the French economy has been a laggard for some time within the euro area. The star performers have been Spain and Ireland, and even Italy seems to be now moving in the right direction with some of the structural reforms being passed. But France is slowly, has lagged behind. It is showing some signs of improvement, but it's too slow. And the problem is we've had, quite a few years of subpar growth, and this clearly means that the amount of labour coming into the market cannot be absorbed, and the unemployment rate continues to ride high, and that could start to dampen consumer spending, as indeed we've seen with some of the figures recently. So it doesn't look as though there's going to be any early turnaround in France, and clearly it continues to be, to lag behind other countries in the single currency. And if you look at the PMI surveys recently, they've been somewhat disappointing, particularly in the service side. Obviously, some of that may have been, directly related to the terrible events we saw in Paris. But even so, we seem to see renewed divergence between the service sector in Germany and France, and that clearly isn't a good thing. So I think the French economy, the risk is it will disappoint next year.
The single currency has fallen almost 8% against the dollar over the past 6 weeks. Even after Draghi effect on Thursday, the UK's call for a multi-currency EU has apparently triggered ECB alarm bells. All things considered, what is your outlook for the euro?
Well, clearly the markets are primed for something pretty aggressive from the ECB last Thursday, particularly after the very dovish comments from Mr. Draghi and the ECB chief economist, Mr. Pret. That did not materialise, and we saw a big disappointment on the markets. We saw a sharp sell-off in the bond market, and we saw a bout of short covering in favour of the euro. The euro rallied the biggest level I think we've seen almost since the single currency began, or one of the biggest rallies we've ever seen. And clearly that caught investors on the hop. Going forward, the divergence between the ECB and Fed still persists, but it's probably not as aggressive as people would hope for. But the ECB will continue to buy bonds. It has got the deposit rate at a record low, but Mr. Draghi didn't give any indication that they're going to take any further action anytime soon. On the other hand, the Fed looks almost certain to raise rates in next week's two-day FOMC meeting, starting the process of a normalization. So I think what the Fed does next week, how it communicates its policy, and what the trajectory for the Fed funds over the midterm is absolutely crucial for the direction of the euro-dollar going forward. On balance, I think the euro near term has probably gone as far as it can, and I think we'll probably see renewed weakness. But if the Fed signals that they're only going to raise rates very gradually, then parity may not be reached anytime soon.
Nick, great to catch up with you. I thank you for your time. Well, the TV team has plenty more to bring you, including press review, forecasts, and the week ahead. So please do keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV. Bye for now.